Should you buy a 7-string guitar? Yeah, they're great. Fair enough, I'll elaborate. If you're a session musician like me, you've likely come across the temptation to buy yourself a 7-string guitar. Perhaps you're a young, aspiring guitarist who's looking to buy their first good quality instrument, but a lot of people have been telling you, no, they're not versatile, you want to get yourself a Strat, or a Tele, or a Les Paul, or some other kind of boomer guitar. There are so many options out there for good quality instruments, but before you pull the trigger, you want to make sure you're making the right choice. In this video, I'll be going into why I love my 7-string, if it's even the right choice for you, and what exactly you should be looking for. First thing you should consider is what genre you plan to be playing on this guitar. If you're into metal music or heavier genres and you're watching this just to try and convince yourself it's the right choice, just get one. It's great. You're likely playing in a drop tuning already, but that has some downsides. One of the big reasons we would want a 7th string in metal is so that we can reach those download chugs without having to compromise on the high register. In 7 standard, this is tuned to B, so I've already got E standard, drop D, drop C, drop B, without needing to alter the tuning of my guitar at all. Furthermore, the 7-string is a way more approachable option compared to like 8 and 9 strings you might see in the use of bands like Animals as Leaders and Carcosa. Something I'll discuss later in this video is most 7-string guitars you'll find on the market are geared towards playing in heavier genres, so there is no shortage of options, regardless of where you land in the kind of sub-genre spectrum. But here's where it gets fun. You're a spicy session musician, you want to show up to your pop gigs and your country gigs with a 7-string, don't you? I see you. You might have heard somewhere that 7 strings are only for heavier genres. That could not be farther from the truth. Country and funk musicians often use baritone guitars to achieve a lower tuning, and guess what baritone guitars are tuned to? That's right, B standard. Probably see where I'm going with this. As I mentioned earlier, you get to go down to that low B without compromising any of the range you have on your standard 6-string. I'll give you an example. One of my favorite quirks of the 7-string is, you'll likely be familiar with D. When your legs don't work. Very thin chord. A lot of guitarists I know are trying to avoid it by capoing on the 2nd fret and just playing with a C shape so they have more to work with. But on the 7-string, even though I still got those higher registers, I now have the option to play kind of a G shape and get a full 7 voice chord. You can also do like these massive B minor chords. Really fun. That additional string is great for jazz and even contemporary classical. That's why you'll see a lot of classical guitarists are using these insane extended range guitars. If you're into complex voicings, extended range instruments have been available for yonks. In the session world, we'll often see guitars that are known for playing 6 strings grab the 7-string for that extended range in certain moments. In my opinion, this is where the 7-string shines at its greatest as another color in your palette. So yeah, if you're watching this video and you're deciding if a 7-string should be your first guitar, I don't even think you're making a bad decision in regards to versatility. Maybe you're into metal now, but you want to be able to play jazz later, or classical or something later down the line. These instruments work really well for that. Now that you know why you want one, I think it's time we talk about pitch. Now the following will be true not only for 7 strings, but pretty much any guitar. I personally love the SHH configuration. Do single coil so I can get those John Mayer-y buttery cleans one moment, and a humbucker in the bridge so I can switch to heavier tones at any time. For my purposes as a session musician who works with different kinds of producers in different genres and also performs in different genres live, versatility is priority 1. Again, most of the time you see a 7-string in a music store, it's probably a gent machine. But more and more we're seeing these instruments being offered with passive pickups with a lower output that do beautiful things for country and blues. I bought this kind of Ibanez RG style guitar about a year ago. I got a good deal at my local music store and I really like it, but it is not an extremely versatile machine due to the pickup selection. It's loaded with fairly dark voiced active pickups by AMG, and It's good for big chugs, but I have found they clean up quite nicely. I needed something that can go to like the prog metal, djenty area for some of my clients, but I don't own anything like a Les Paul or something with 2 humbuckers in it that can do those 80s rock tones. Now when I need to do some big boomer riffs for a gig, I go straight to this, even if I don't really need the 7th string, but it's nice to have. In the immortal words of Yngwie Malmsteen, more is more. I might change the pickups out for something a bit more versatile. If you play weddings or corporate events, any kind of gig where you need a large, diverse repertoire, I genuinely believe it's better to show up with one guitar that does everything pretty well, instead of having 3 or 4 instruments that each do one thing really well. Something I haven't really brought up in regards to your playing style is your bridge. If you're looking for something with a floating trem or a traditional style trem, you will be more limited for choice, since with a 7 string you're entering into a slightly more niche category of instruments. If you don't like a fixed bridge, you'll likely have to pay a little more, which brings us to... At this point, I'd like to ask, if you are a 7 string player or you're planning to buy a 7 string, what is the most important factor in your decision making? I'd really be interested to know. Is it pickups? Is it the genre? Is it the look? Because that's a big factor. When discussing the price ranges of these instruments, I'm going to start with the more affordable, head over into the reasonable, and then go into the ridiculous boutique dream guitars. I firmly believe in the words of the great prophet Linus, there is no such thing as a bad product, only a bad price. A few years ago, if you wanted a 7 string instrument, you would have to go custom built. But as extended scale instruments have been entering the mainstream, companies like Ibanez, Jackson and Cort, and companies like Harley Benton have been bringing out these really reasonably priced instruments. The Jackson JS22-7 Dinky is a really good deal at just under 300 USD. Most Ibanez Geo instruments these days are really good if you don't mind foregoing certain creature comforts, but most of them are really pointy RG style guitars, so if that's a problem, that might not be the option for you. Harley Benton has a multi-scale 7 string for around 200 USD, and they even have options as low as 165 USD, which is crazy if you're a young guitarist looking to buy their first instrument. If you're saving up and you wanted to get a 7 string, but all you've been seeing is all these big companies and custom stuff, there are options that are viable for a young musician. Just scrolling through Tomon here, and you can get the Harley Benton 7 string fan fret, a B stock, for 188 USD, which again, for an instrument that is in a strange niche, is an incredible deal. Now, a step up from that, I would say we're entering into prosumer price ranges. Again, the usual suspects, Ibanez, Schecter have entered the ring, but also companies like Solar Guitars by Ola England. I haven't played one of these yet, I haven't been able to get my hands on one, but I've heard they offer insane value, and you can get a 7 string for around $800. I would say this is more or less where my 7 string lands. I think it's a really good price range to aim for if you're not looking to replace your current kind of main guitar. If you're looking to add to your collection for a very specific use case and you want a good price range, but also a good quality instrument. Another step up, now we're entering into the north of 1,000 USD price range. You start seeing these really cool ESP Les Paul shapes. I personally love this if you're looking for kind of an 80s dad rock look, but with the additional string and benefits of a 7 string, this is an insanely good direction to go. If you're a traditionalist of a guitar player, but you want to indulge in a bit of a midlife crisis purchase to try something new in your guitar playing, this is a great option. I think this 1,000 to 1,300-ish price range is where a lot of the best Ibanez stuff is. You can get their headless model with single coils, with that SSH configuration I mentioned earlier. You can get one for around 1,003 USD here. Moving up another price range, we start seeing Jackson signature ranges, if that's your bag, along with some of the slightly more premium Chapman guitars. But what's really exciting here is the PRS SE Mark Holcomb. This lands at about 1,400 USD, so it's not a cheap instrument. This is probably my dream 7 string guitar. Really versatile pickups, beautiful finish, that quilted maple look. I just think this is one of the most beautiful instruments I've ever seen. If you want to upgrade your current guitar and you've decided 7 string is the direction you want to go, I think the 1,400, 1,500 price range is a great area where you get like insane professional quality instruments. I've played on 1 or 2 of these PRS SE guitars. Incredible instruments. Now at the 1.5K range, we start seeing a lot more versatility in pickup options, and it's unfortunate that It's only now that you really get to pick and choose exactly what you want. You get body shapes like the Epiphone Matt Heafy, which is also this really cool Les Paul style guitar, and you start seeing Sterling by Music Man, get the John Petrucci or the Jason Richardson Cutlass, and in this range you can start specking out custom guitars with companies like Kiesel. Even if you don't have that kind of money, go play around on the Kiesel website. You can kind of custom build a guitar and they'll let you know how much that would cost to build. Now the 2000 USD price range, I would say most people, this is where dream guitars live. If you've saved up all your pennies, you start seeing stuff like the Strandberg guitars and the really high-end ESP and Ibanez guitars. The 7-string Martin Miller lands in this price range. Again, what Martin Miller does with the guitar is crazy and lots of versatile tones, but you also get the benefit of the 7-string. From here, boutique pricing, the kind of stuff you watch YouTube videos about while you're struggling to pay your rent. The Strandberg Bowden Prog NX7, again a bit of a dream guitar for me. The Ernie Ball Music Man stuff, all gorgeous pieces, but I only have so many organs I can afford to sell. There are some really cool options from companies like Artistides that do custom built instrument made to order, but they start at around 3.5 thousand euros. With an E. That's just base model before you spec it out. That's 3.5 thousand euros up. Gorgeous instruments though. I would love to see one in the wild at some point. Needless to say, you can spend anything you want. As with any guitar, the higher you go in price range, you're starting to pay for little quality of life improvements, craftsmanship, and aesthetics. But you'll eventually reach this ceiling of diminishing returns. In my script, I accidentally wrote demonizing returns, which is close to, accurate. Regardless of what your budget is, I believe you should be looking for an instrument that fulfills your needs as a musician. I've picked up guitars in music stores that, really entry-level stuff, and they just have this mojo about them. As I believe I've mentioned before on this channel, the guitar used to be a 5-stringed instrument, and then some crazy person with aspirations of down-tuned riffs added another string. The 7-string definitely isn't for everyone. Not everyone needs that or is willing to go through the extra learning curve, but there are examples of guitarists in pretty much every genre using 7 strings. Nickleback has been using 7 strings of late. And frankly, they're just really fun to play. As someone who's been playing guitar for many years, it's an instrument that's opened my eyes to new ways to approaching music. When I sit down to practice now, even if it's going to be high, lead stuff, I pick up this instrument because it just inspires me to think differently. Throwing yourself in a little bit of a deep end is often a great way to challenge yourself and grow as a musician. So in short, to answer the question, should you buy a 7-string? Well, if you've watched this video all the way till here, yes, there are plenty of options that offer versatility or a lack thereof if that's what you're looking for. I've really enjoyed using mine for the occasional gig or the occasional session, but even though it hasn't become my main instrument, I think my go-to will always be a nice versatile 6-string. Whether you're a professional or just an enthusiast, I think it's a fun instrument to explore. It's a great new direction to take your music in. And the longer I've been doing this, the more I've tried to find ways to force myself out of my comfort zone. But at the end of the day, a new instrument isn't gonna make you a better musician. You are. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way to the end. I don't take that for granted. If you like this video, consider hitting like and subscribe if you want more in this vein. I've also started live streaming occasionally. I don't think I'll become a live streamer. That's not really, I wouldn't say that's the goal, but recently I've started streaming a bit of my process when it comes to writing and recording different genres of music. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, you can check those out. Also, let me know what your dream instrument, 7-string or otherwise, doesn't have to be a guitar. I always like having a conversation with different kinds of musicians. Okay, bye.